Greetings to all. Warm Advent blessings to all of you, my dear sisters and brothers, and my dear friends. This is your Pastor Yeti. Wednesday. Today I'm going to talk about the raising of the little girl. Matthew 9 verses 18 to 26. As Jesus was saying this, suddenly an official came up and knelt down in front of him. "It's my daughter," he said. "She's just died. But if you come and lay your hand on her, she'll come back to life." Jesus got up and followed him. So did his disciples. Just then a woman appeared. She had suffered from eternal bleeding for 12 years. She came out behind Jesus and touched the hem of his coat. "If I can only touch his coat," she said to herself, "I'll be rescued." Jesus turned around and saw her. "Cheer up, my daughter," he said. "Your faith has rescued you." And the woman was healed from that moment. Jesus went into the official house. There he saw the flute players and everybody in a great state of agitation. "Go away," he said. "The little girl isn't dead. She's asleep." And they laughed at him. So, when everybody had been put out, he went in and took hold of her hand, and she got up. The report of this went out around the whole of that region. All societies have hygiene regulations. Often we only notice them when, as in the whatever places just can happen, they have to be introduced all of a sudden. But we all learn when to wash our hands and how to clean cups, plates and cutlery after using them. We don't usually give it a thought. If we did, we talked about germs, about infections, about staying healthy. In societies before modern medicine, where you couldn't cure infections nearly as easily as we can now, it was vital to have strict codes about what you could and couldn't touch, and what to do if you did contract impurity. These weren't silly regulations. They didn't mean you were being legalistic. They were and are practical wisdom to keep society in good shape. The Jewish people, who had plenty of regulations like that in the Bible already, had codified them further to make it clearer to people exactly how to keep from getting sick. And two of them that were near the top of the list. Things to avoid if you want to stay pure. In that sense, were dead bodies on the one hand and women with eternal bleeding, including menstrual periods, on the other. And in this double story, Jesus is touched by a hemorrhaging woman, and then he himself touches a corpse. No Jew would have missed the point, and Matthew was most likely written for a largely Jewish audience. In the ordinary course of events, Jesus would have become double unclean, and would have had to bath himself and his clothes and wait until the next day before resuming normal social contact. This was quite a usual process. Nobody would have given it much thought, any more than we comment on someone doing the laundry today. But when we read the story from this point of view, what actually happened is all the more remarkable. It all began with a flurry of activity, a man in a panic. He was an official, probably a local civil servant or government agent. Normally such people would keep their dignity. They would walk with a measured tread and speak calmly to those they met. They had a social status to preserve. But this man has thrown all that out of the window. His little daughter has just died. What can he do? He's heard that there's a prophet in town who seems to be curing people. Perhaps he can help. And before he quite knows what he's doing, he's rushed out of his house, down the road, to where Jesus stands with a crowd of people around him. And he's thrown himself down on the dusty road right there in front of all the neighbors. Who cares about dignity when your daughter's life is at stake? The story keeps us in suspense while we switch attention from a little girl to an older woman. Having had her particular ailment, internal bleeding, for 12 years, she sees her chance of healing and takes it, knowing she is making everyone unclean. As she pushes past them, she comes up and touches Jesus. But at this point we realize that something is different. Her uncleanness doesn't infect him. Something in him infects her. Jesus turns round, sees her, and tells her, as he told the centurion, that what has made the difference in her own faith. Here is the mystery. Jesus has the power to heal. But those who receive it are those with faith. And the word Matthew uses for healing in verse 21 and 22 is save, rescue. No early Christian would miss the point. What Jesus was doing was the beginning of his whole work of rescuing the world, saving the world from everything that polluted, defaced, and destroyed it. And those who would benefit would be those who would believe. The greatest destroyer is, of course, death itself. Here we see a stage further in Matthew's description of Jesus' healing work. The official's daughter is already dead, and the people in the house know it. They have already begun the sorrowful process of weeping and wailing, letting their grief have full vent over the lovely young life cut short. Jesus won't have it, taking a huge risk. They're already laughing at him, and now he's going to go and touch the corpse. He holds the little girl's hand, and she gets up. Again, the word is resurrection, word she arose. We in our modern world have many ways of dealing with personal impurity. Contemporary hygiene and chemicals means we don't have to worry about it nearly as much as people in the ancient world. But, of course, some of the very chemicals we use as we now know, pollute our atmosphere, our fields, and our crops. Some of our contemporary pressure groups are just as worried about pollution in this environmental sense as the Pharisees were with pollution as defined by their purity codes. The followers of Jesus may be called to find ways of dealing with such new pollution, to explore new types of healing to bring cleansing and a new start to communities, agriculture, and the very air we breathe. But there are still other types of pollutions as well. The pollution which gets into our minds and hearts, into our imagination and memory. How can we get rid of that? One way is to spend time with a story like this. Imagine yourself as an actor or actress in the drama. Suppose you were the official, or the woman with the internal bleeding, or one of the flute players in the house, or one of the disciples looking on. Or, if you dare, suppose you were Jesus himself. Let me give you reflections. What is the context of Jesus' mission to cleanse us from pollution? How does it speak to you? Imagine yourself as an actor or actress in the drama. May Jesus embrace you with his healing. This is your Pastor Yeti.